All right, we are live.
We are live, and I am Charles Epting from HR Harmer in New York City.
I'm Michael Cortese of Noble Spirit in Pittsfield, New Hampshire.
And this is Conversations with Philatelists emergency live stream. No, so normally our live streams are on Fridays.
Yep.
Tomorrow, Michael, you have some big personal news. Would you like to share?
Yeah, my wife and I are closing on our first house at exactly the time we're supposed to be doing the live stream. So,
So Michael and I
yeah,
both bought homes within like 3 months of each other,
yeah, yeah,
which is awesome. So
yeah,
so that was part of why we're doing this on Thursday. The other thing was we were trying to do an emergency live stream
yeah,
yesterday on Twitter, although the technology was not in our favor, because there was a big news announcement this week.
yes.
This is again, this will send ripples to the Philatelic community. The Collectors Club of New York,
Hmm.
also known as the Collectors Club, announced their intention to explore. I don't use definitives because nothing is set in stone yet, but they are exploring the possibility of selling their clubhouse
Hmm.
located at 22 East 35th Street. You and I were just going to talk about this, the two of
Ourselves.
us,
Yeah,
but we have a wonderful surprise guest to join us
yeah,
in the president of the Collectors Club himself, Lawrence Haber, who has joined us before
yeah,
and is very graciously joining us today to discuss this news that's not even 48 hours old yet. So,
yeah,
without further ado, why don't you say we? What do you say we just bring Larry in and
yeah.
go from there?
Absolutely. Here we go.
It worked.
Hi.
I feel so much better. It's kind of peculiar being in holding tank.
We're very glad to have you, Larry. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
joining us
much.
and on such short notice.
Yeah.
Sure. As I said, I have nothing else to do.
Well, I mentioned briefly in the intro, and yeah, you've seen me, I'm sure, tweeting about it the last couple of days. But the Collectors Club made a fairly large announcement on Tuesday evening. Do you want to just tell people briefly? Again, I was sort of hedging when I described it because nothing is set in stone yet. There's no,
No,
it's not
no.
like a decision has been made, but this is sort of the of a process, it seems.
Yeah, it is. What we announced on Tuesday evening was that we have decided to list our clubhouse at 22 East 35th Street in Manhattan for sale, where we are using one of the leading real estate brokers in the country. This is a listing,
Hmm.
it's not a sale. Our board agreed to list it, but not yet to sell it. In order to sell the property, aside from the minor fact that we need a willing buyer and we have to agree terms, we also have to do a thorough job in dimensioning our future home.
Hmm.
And it's really, really important here that we don't describe this as the Collectors Club is selling their building. That's really not the case. We are endeavoring to evaluate whether we can move.
Okay.
So the goal is, if everything were to work, that we would move from one location, 22 East 35th, to some other location that we have not yet selected. In order to select that new home, we need to do a certain amount of what we could call staff work.
Hmm.
How many square feet do we need? What are the exact detailed attributes of the layout in the site? And there are some things that we know we need to have in place, otherwise it isn't going to work. We want to have 24/7 easy turnkey access. We want to have full accessibility for our mobility challenged visitors. In other words, we want to be ADA compliant. Let me explain why that's an issue. You guys are young, mobile folk. You come to the Collectors Club. You don't even realize it, that to get to the door, you have to go over steps. And if you're ever in a wheelchair or if you have trouble, those steps are an impediment. So you might say, why don't you put up a ramp? Can't do it. We're a landmarked location. The facade of the building is landmarked. Can't do it. The building is a magnificent jewel that was designed by Stanford White. It's magnificent. Can't play with that because it's under New York City landmark jurisdiction. We'd have an incredibly difficult process to go through, and it might very well fail. Can't even put up a handrail. Next, let's imagine that you manage to drag yourself over into the front door, take a few steps, and if you recall, you are then confronted with a half flight of beautiful, beautiful marble steps. How are you going to get up that? Continue further. On the left, there's a nice elevator. On the right, a fabulous, beautiful, breathtaking staircase. We want people to be able to get in and out of our facility with ease and with dignity. And that's really, really important. Now, if we continue our virtual tour in the building, after you've managed to get up those steps, the first thing you'll be confronted with, if you continue to walk forward, is our library. One of the finest philatelic libraries in the world. It's a gem. But it ain't the whole library. You need a journal down in the basement. You want an auction catalog? You have to go up to the third floor and it's in the back. You want one of the rare books that we have? It's up in the third floor in the front. So we've got a library that's spread out over a building. Is this a way to run a railroad? I don't think so. Can we bring it together in one location, one spot, so that you don't have to go running around when you're sitting down and doing your philatelic research? We want to make absolutely certain that the new location is an inviting destination for visitors, both from in town and out of town. I very much want people who from out of town, let's say you're visiting from Michigan and you're coming to New York because once everything clears up, you want to take in some shows, do some shopping. And let's just imagine, I'll make something up. The wife decides she wants to go off and buy something, and you don't want to be with her, and she doesn't want you with her because you're gonna slow it down. I want you to feel comfortable coming to the Collectors Club, sitting down, pulling a journal, reading it, getting yourself a cup of coffee and stuff like that. You can do that now. You're gonna have to do that. In the future. We currently accommodate large meetings for our meetings. We also have a lot of philatelic organizations that use our location as a meeting place. That's got to continue. We also make the space available for a modest fee to auction firms to use it for an auction for viewing. We need to have that. That's what we're about. We also have certain issues about the maintenance and the regulatory environments, which seemingly changes every 5 minutes in the city of New York. Just the other day, fire department came, went into our furnace room, and in the furnace room, there was a filing cabinet that had been there for at least 10 years. Plus other things. Stuff was there for years and years and years. Inspection after inspection after inspection. Got to get it out. And if you don't meet the timetable and get it done, the fines are $300 a day. Recently, new requirement for us to install carbon monoxide monitoring. We all agree. I'm not going to say no. The first bid we got on that was $25,000.
Hmm.
And the monitoring every month was $500. Now our dues for out-of-town members is 95. Have you done the math how many members we need in order to pay for that?
Hmm.
The idea, the concept is we can offload a lot of that to professionals to manage. We would pay some form of rent or common charges. Let other people manage that. We're stamp collectors. When we're not in the business, and we don't necessarily have a desire to get heavily into all these things, and it diverts us from what we're really about. So that our board meetings become discussions about elevators and carbon monoxide and stairs, and how do we get the garbage thrown out, and not about how we all work together to further develop this hobby, bring more people into it, and get people more engaged in this hobby.
Yeah.
So I've got this great board, fabulous, fabulous people amongst the creme de la creme of philatelists in this country. And instead of talking about how we can help people get inspired and draw them closer to philately, we're talking about elevators.
Well, and looking from a broader historical context as well, I may have my numbers slightly off, but I think you said in your email that this is the 10th home of the Collectors Club, assuming that those nine, those nine existed in about the 4 decades before 22 East 35th. So we're looking at a couple of years per location, some longer, some shorter, obviously. But I know that the APS as well used to move from location to location before State College in Bellefonte became the home of it. So do you think this concept of the Collectors Club having a permanent home, and you also said in the email that everybody alive today only remembers 22 East 35th, but do you think that this is sort of an unrealistic expectation that the club is going to have one home for hundreds and hundreds of years? Do you think that we could almost look to the early days of the club as a model going forward?
I think that what we have here is a very natural byproduct of having been in the same location for 80 plus years. Now, I would point out that the Royal, that is the Royal Philatelic Society London, did very, very much the same thing just a few years ago. They had been operating out of 41 Devonshire since some point in the 20s, and they moved. And I've been in touch with the Royal, and I talk with them, and we get along splendidly, and it's very collegial. When I was talking to them about the issues that we have, it was like, and when they talked about their issues, it's like I was talking to myself. The reality is that when we selected the building, it was in 1936. It's a long time ago. The technology in the building, the way the building is set up, the layout of the building, our requirements. Let me ask you another question. If I were to ask you, clean piece of paper, and you were looking for a home for the Collectors Club, would you pick 22 East 35th? I'm not sure you would. We agree it's beautiful. We agree we love it. We agree that Stanford White is brilliant. No argument there. No, but is it functional in the context of the requirements that we have today in the year 2021?
Yeah.
I would say it's got some challenges. That beautiful staircase, means that the space is heavily divided in the middle of the floor plate. Getting contiguous space is almost impossible. It means up and down stairs. It means things have to be put into places. In 36, 37, this suited their requirements at that time. The library was smaller. They also, I would mention, had a billiard table in the building. They also had bridge tables. The hours of the club ran from 2 until midnight. But if no members were around at 11, the staff could go home. Is that how we use the club now? No. We use the club now to have our meetings. We use the club now to host groups like the New York chapter of the Classic Society or the New York chapter of the ARA. We use the club now so that firms like H.R. Haber can hold viewings and auctions. I haven't seen a billiard table recently.
We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we'll have to work on it. So I think it's a natural sort of thing. And that if you had bought your home, your personal home, in the mid-30s, I dare say it would have to be significantly changed in order to keep pace with the requirements that we have today in the first quarter of the 21st century. Same thing here.
So going forward, does the board need to agree on a new location before a decision can be made to sell the current location?
We're going to explore that. It's very, very clear that we have to put out a very credible plan of what we're looking to do. Space planning, estimations of the floor space that we need. And from people from outside of New York who don't know otherwise, there's this huge differential between usable square feet and rentable square feet, which only those who are initiated into this bizarre world. There is also the opportunity for lag time. We do not go agree a price and the transaction then completes and you move 30 days later. In other words, you agree a price and then an entire sequence of events takes over, not the least of which is an agreement for when we would need to vacate. So we have flexibility there. We don't want to do anything in a panic. We want to be very controlled, very organized, and we want to make certain that the work gets done. We are already starting work to move the other issues forward with regard to the new home. It is very, very clear that if we were to get an offer today, I cannot imagine the board approving our acceptance of that offer because we haven't done the work that needs to be done, such as what our requirements are in detail, what a potential layout would be, how we would fit it out, what it would look like, and such. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a problem finding a good home because we're talking about space in Midtown Manhattan between Penn Station and Grand Central. We have to be between there, right?
Okay.
There's a tremendous availability of space options in that area. And my little analogy is, can you find space there? Yeah. It's about as likely that we can find space there as you could find corn in Iowa. We're talking about Midtown Manhattan. I don't think it'll be a problem, but we've passed the point where I can just say it won't be a problem. We have work to do. And in addition to agreeing to list the building, the board authorized me to move forward in terms of engaging with real estate professionals as we move forward in terms of the planning, the space planning and architectural work that would need to be done. Okay.
I'm sure a lot of people are wondering sort of what the timeline is. And I asked you about this, and I realized that we can't, predict any of it. But if things move forward, is there a range? If somebody wants to visit 22 East 35th just to say they've been there, realistically, what are we looking at here?
Probably, I would hope sometime around the end of 2022. This stuff takes time. It takes time. So it's not like the moving truck is going to show up next week. It's going to take time. And look, let's make no mistake about it. There's a lot of affection for this building. I'm a New Yorker. So my definition of a New Yorker is somebody who can walk around Fifth Avenue or Sixth Avenue in the 40s and 50s and doesn't look up. Okay, that's me. I don't do that. So I was very used to the building. Because of the pandemic, I hadn't been there for a while. The first time I got back in, I was on the second floor, the reception area with that bay window, that white design. The light comes in, it's northern exposure. It's breathtaking. This isn't easy. It's not like, we wake up in the morning and say, like, how do we ruin everybody's breakfast? It isn't easy, but we also have to be responsible. And as much as we have a fondness for the building, we need to move forward. Personally speaking, at a particular stage, when I first started to get involved, I would have said, and some people might say, that the building defines the club. And I disagree with that. It's the members who define this club. When I walk into the building, and that wall that shows the past presidents, they're the people who define the club. And the people who come and visit us for meetings and not, they are the people who define the club. And the people who are scattered across the United States, North America, and around the world who are members, they define the club. We have a lot of affection, we have a lot of regard, but it's the people that really define the place. And we very much are looking for a location that when you walk into, it'll put a smile on everyone's face. To do otherwise would be, in my view, to betray the trust that the members have placed into us. Okay.
I do hope that Michael and I have an opportunity to do an episode, if it's all right with you guys, to do a walkthrough of 22 East 35th to capture it as it is, as the home of the club, and then we'll do a counterpart episode in the new location someday. But we'd love to we'd love to do something like that. My last question for you, Larry, something I was thinking about. You've had the Philatelic Foundation as a tenant of the building for several years now. What is that relationship like, and has there been any thought of whether the PF might find a home wherever the foundation wherever the Collectors Club moves to?
Well, I mean, the PF is very dear to us. They are within the realm of philatelic organizations. I can't think of anyone that is closer to us. If you go into the origins of the Collectors Club and the origins of the Philatelic Foundation, quite frankly, they sprung forth from the same set of loins. The founders, and that has always been. So, that may be something that was back then, but that continues to this day. We have a board of 15, and sitting on our board is the president of the PF and 1, 2, 3 members of their board. So there's people on both boards. You go to most shows. So, for example, next week we'll be out in West Pex. I think that they're having their own table, but we may be sharing a table with them. And I guarantee you, at GAS, I'll be sitting next to Larry Lyons, who's the executive director of the PF. So in terms of closeness, that's what we're about. The PF is fully up to speed with what we're doing. I've had very direct, open conversations with the president of the PF, who is sitting on our board, so he certainly knows. And it really is up to them. We're delighted. They need to make a decision. We can only say that we are delighted to work with them in any way that we can work with them, because that's what we're about. At the end of the day, we share the same goals. We want to further this hobby. But they have some decisions ahead of them. And it's early enough that, we can accommodate whatever that decision may be.
Perfect. Well, I mean, it sounds like everybody's taking this very seriously and doing their due diligence to make sure that everything ends up the way that everybody's happy with, relatively speaking.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And if not, then, I think our board would say, stop. Mm-hmm. And you need to go back and you need to work harder, because this isn't acceptable. Okay? So the board did not authorize a listing and a sale given a set of prices and terms. They just approved a listing. And, we know that in order to progress forward, the things that I'm saying have to happen, which some may feel are aspirational, need to move from the realm of aspirational to having been done in terms of planning and really sensing what's out there. Otherwise, the board will say stop. And I think that's the way it ought to be. And, personally, I'm fine with that, because that's the way it should be. We are the inheritors of a tremendous legacy. And we have to be very mindful of that, and to see this through properly. We have a jewel. The jewel is not the building. The jewel is this club. 125 years of it. That's the jewel. And that's what I'm absolutely determined to not only preserve, but to build and to make a better club for our members across the world.
Larry, again, I can't thank you enough for joining us on such short notice. Again, we got the news. I got a couple of text messages Tuesday night, and receiving a call from you yesterday and your quick agreement to appear with us. I hope that we can continue to keep people updated and informed as the process moves along. But the last thing, let's end on a less somber note. What can people expect from the Collectors Club in the next couple of weeks, couple of months? What's on the agenda off the top of your head that's coming up online or in person, or what's new?
Okay. We have our programs. We just did one last night. It feels like I do one every night. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but that's the way I feel. But we're doing our virtual programs as we have been since April 2020, basically every other week, with some that have been inserted. So we just did a fabulous program on Anglo-French philately. Great stuff. In 2 weeks, we're doing the overrun countries stamp series, the US series in the middle of the war. Those beautiful stamps, aren't those? So that continues. Next week, some of us are flying out to San Francisco. Some of us are flying up from elsewhere, and we're going to be at Westpac. And I'm also trudging along my infamous 1909 exhibit. And I'm going to be making book on whether or not I break 69 points on that sucker. We are then going to be in gas, and before gas really starts on Wednesday, we have a dinner that people can attend for a modest amount of money. As we go into the fall, the programming continues online. November 11th, I think it is, we have our single frame competition. Following day, we have a celebratory dinner at the Harvard Club for the 125th anniversary of the club, the 100th anniversary of our journal, and also honoring 3 gentlemen who have been awarded the Liechtenstein Award. In January, I'm anticipating we will begin offering programs in the clubhouse. Yeah. I expect that they will be live streamed, and we will record them and post them. And we are intending to continue with our virtual programming as we have every other week. So it looks like we're going to be doing 3 programs a month. So we'll be, busy boys and girls. So we're also going to try to be out there more in more of the clubs than we have been, because in addition to gas, we'll be there at Chicago PEX in November. We're still working out the details of that with the folks over in Chicago. Some of us are going to be down at NAPEX. And if people who don't know, NOJEX, which is Northern New Jersey, is probably the closest thing that we have to our regular show. And a lot of us do that. I can also give you some news that we haven't generally announced. We have a book in preparation on New York City foreign mail that is being written by Nick Kirk.
I heard rumors about this book.
Ain't a rumor, but you pulled it out of me. It's, just fabulous topic. We think it's going to become a required item in everybody's bookshelf. It'll probably hit the street sometime in the latter part of 2022, I think. So yeah, you would have heard some rumors about that, probably because Nick tells everybody. But yeah, we're doing that. So we're very, very pleased to do that. And we haven't done that within memory. We have offered books before, but those were basically handed over to us completely done. This, we were involved at the very beginning. We've engaged an editor, and we're working with the editor and Nick. And so we're doing that. I think that's that. We had an open house in the club in June. Very nicely attended. If anybody wants some free eats, we are going to have a governor's open house in December. That's a Christmas thing. We try to make sure we feed people.
Well, again, this all sounds fantastic. I more than anything, I want to thank you. I'll also mention Matthew Healy said it's the 10th and 11th for the November 10th and 11th for the single frame.
Yeah, I'm slightly dyslexic with names and numbers and things like that.
Well, I'll certainly be there for that. But again, thank you for joining us on short notice. Big news, but I think ultimately a positive development for the hobby. I think that I think that the Royal set a good example. If they could pull it off so seamlessly and successfully, Who's to say the Collectors Club can't?
Oh, we will. There's no other, failure is not an option.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you at Westpex next week.
Yeah.
No, I can't wait. I just can't wait.
Neither can we.
So, by the way, if you want to participate in my poll, my little pool here about whether or not I get 69 points or more, let me know.
I'll send you an email.
Yeah.
You take care.
Thanks so much, Larry.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye. Great.
Wow. This has been my, I don't want to say my favorite live stream because I've liked them all, but this is an important one. Again, this is breaking news. There's a lot of other news to cover. I kind of feel like we should postpone and maybe just tweet about it for the next week. But last night, Siegel announced a huge round of sales, including Gordon Eubanks, 1851 Imperfs, Arthur Prisbal, Civil War Adversity covers, and one other.
I got it. Yeah, I got it right here.
Thank you.
Scarsdale collection.
Scarsdale collection of Canada.
Yep.
And provinces. Arthur's and Gordon's collections obviously were the one. That's why I couldn't remember. That's where my mind is at. But again, there's a lot of other news going on.
Yeah.
I would like to cover it, but I feel like this live stream was important. Again, to have Larry on to clarify some things about the Collectors Club.
Yeah.
You can only put so much in an email versus a half-hour conversation.
Yeah.
This is one of those cases where you really want to get someone on the phone or on camera.
Yeah.
So huge thank you to Larry. And Michael, what do you say? I think that about does it for this live stream.
That about does it. I was only going to mention that the vacuum cleaner, Jenny, sold for $185.
I didn't even see what it sold for. I've been so crazy this week.
Yeah.
$185 for the vacuum cleaner, Jenny. That is fantastic. And there's another Jenny position 3 coming up in Arthur Prisbal's sale.
Yeah.
So no shortage of Jennies this year.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone who participated in the comments. I saw some people making friends in there, which I really like.
I can't even get the comments on my. I see them here.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
I make my
there
screen.
Are a lot. Okay.
I make my screen half size, and then I watch the comments out of the corner of my eye to make sure we don't miss anything. So, thank you to everyone commenting. And Michael, this was I'm not sure fun's the right word. Again, it's a bittersweet experience with the club, but talking to Larry about it, I think gives me a
fantastic to know it's in the right hands and that they're being so cautious and so careful.
The board of the Collectors Club, just power to them, and they've got our support and our interest, and we'll keep people updated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until tomorrow. Until next time. We'll be back next week with Westpex coverage.
Yes. Yeah.
So
looking forward to that. We're going to be live streaming. Our next live stream
will be in San Francisco.
Westpex. Yeah.
And we'll have other great content before and after and during and all that good stuff from Westpex. So, Michael, as always, this was fun, and we'll talk real soon.